All right, good evening, everyone. So before we get started, I just want to give a little flow of what the schedule is going to be like, being that we do have a slightly tight schedule because there is a hearing right after this at 5 p.m., another public safety hearing. So I am going to give an introduction, discuss a previous amendment that I introduced, and then from there I'm going to turn the floor over to the bill sponsor to talk about other amendments that he would like to introduce and anything else he would like to say on the bill. I will then give the agencies the opportunity to say what they would like to say on the bill, and then we'll move to public testimony. It is my intention that after this to also try to get a date solidified today where we can announce during this hearing to have another hearing coming up in the coming weeks. So first off, I would like to make a motion to withdraw an amendment from last hearing, which is the $180 cap. Council, the bill sponsor will explain that momentarily, but I do want to make that motion, put it to a vote, and then move on with the hearing. So if there's somebody who'd like to second it.
Danielle McCray.
Second. I'll second.
All right, so Richard, I made the motion. Councilwoman McCray has seconded that. Can we do a roll call?
Yes, sir. On the motion to withdraw the previous amendment, Chairman Schleifer,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burnett,
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Cohen. Let's see.
Is Councilman Cohen on?
I don't see him.
No.
He can come back. Member McCray,
Yeah.
that's a yes. Mr. Pinkett,
Yes.
Pinkett votes aye. Member Sneed,
Yes.
okay. Mr. Chair, there are 5 votes in the affirmative. The motion can move. Do you want to wait and see if we can find Mr. Cohen, or you want to record the
No.
vote now?
I would just record it and then just so all those who are on understand what we just did. What we did was we removed the $180 cap that was introduced at last hearing, and so right now, as the bill stands, there is no cap from the City Council from this bill's perspective. I will now turn the floor over to the bill sponsor, Councilman Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've been doing a lot of work, just putting countless hours here to try to figure this out. I really want to thank Ashley from the Law Department and Tony at DLR, who have done a ton of work to help amendments get drafted, corrected, and reviewed for legality and such, as well as everybody in the Council President's office, the chair himself, and agency folks. In particular, we took a lot of time to listen to the finance department and hear concerns about one of their amendments in particular. We do have a package of amendments that have been distributed, and there are actually, I even made a request for some further tweaks to them just within the last hour. So hopefully if DLR has those, we'll get those momentarily. If not, I'm going to just take a minute here to just talk about a few things. First, to address the chair's concern as to why the retraction of, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, Councilman Cohen is asking, he asked to be elevated to a panelist.
I elevated him as soon as he left.
Okay.
So he's on.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to open the previous vote so he can vote?
Councilman Cohen, would you like to vote on the last? We just voted to remove the $180 cap. Would you like us to take a revote?
Sure, that would be greatly
Okay.
appreciated.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Mr.
Rick.
Cohen?
Yes.
What's your vote on the amendment?
I'm sorry, Richard.
The amendment is to remove the $180 cap, and the bill sponsor, Councilman Dorsey, is about to explain why. So everybody so far has voted yes to remove it.
Yes.
Okay, then the vote's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Councilman Dorsey.
There's a wide variety of amendments here, and there's also some state law that's pertinent to the consideration of the cap. Through my conversations with the chair, it's clear that the concern really lies with the consumer and vehicle owner experience of being towed under aggressive predatory circumstances, and that the amount that's charged adds insult to injury. And while it may be difficult to rein in all of the concerns related to the conditions under which somebody is towed, I believe it was the chair's intent to basically say, if that's going to be so hard, we're at least going to make it hurt a little bit less. That amendment, I think for reasons that have been conveyed to the committee pretty strenuously by a lot of people, was kind of an untenable rate by just kind of a cost of doing business standard. Much of what I've put forth in the package of amendments that I'm requesting address that underlying concern of the conditions around towing, so that we are less frequently getting to the place where somebody is getting hurt financially by the cost of towing. But in addition to that, and so I'm going to speak to those amendments as we get to that, but in addition to all of that, it's important to note that through all of this, and I would say in particular through the testimony of towers themselves, it became more clear that there is already state law that speaks to the issue of setting a cap on trespass towing in particular. And to be clear, the chair's amendment would have applied to all towing across the whole spectrum of towing, would not have been limited to simply trespass towing, even though the real concern that exists and the complaints that we hear about regularly always pertain to trespass towing. And so the state law speaks specifically to the local jurisdiction setting of a rate on trespass towing, stating that a local jurisdiction is not allowed to charge more than twice the amount that a trespass tower is not allowed to charge more than twice the amount commonly charged by the local jurisdiction for impound towing. In layman's terms, in practical terms, what that means is that the city of Baltimore, when you park your car in a no stopping zone or in a bus stop, and the city of Baltimore has your car towed to Pulaski Highway, we charge you $140 to get that car out of impound, and the state law ties the cap on trespass towing to that rate, which means that a trespass tower abiding by the state law may not charge more than $280 for the towing. When I joined the trespass towing board, the trespass towers were commonly charging, admittedly with the consent of the board, $440. A couple of years ago, that dropped down to $350 when the towers voluntarily more or less put their applications in saying that they were going to charge no more than $350. But it's only on this more recent reading and rereading of the state law that it has become clear that the state law caps Baltimore City at charging, at allowing trespass towers to charge more than $280. And so I believe that the combination of, my anticipation that we will bring the trespass towers into compliance with that state law, and the effects of this package of amendments will significantly mitigate the concerns both of the frequency with which people are towed in circumstances that they believe are unfair, and mitigate to a degree the cost that will come with towing when it does occur, and bring Baltimore better in line with other jurisdictions and what we believe is fair, and addresses the public concern. Shall I go on to talk about the specific amendments, Mr. Chair?
Yes, if you can, and try to keep it brief, because I want to make sure we can get through all of the agencies and all the public testimony.
Sure. So in the committee had a set of amendments distributed to them by me a couple of days ago. The package of 7 amendments address a variety of things, much of which are law department concerns, and some are finance department concerns, BCIT concerns. The first amendment in this package, labeled as Department of Finance to Staff Board, I have asked DLR to rewrite this amendment to give the staffing and enforcement responsibilities to the Department of Transportation instead of the Department of Finance. So I just want to make that clear right here at the outset. Amendment 2 addresses one of the concerns in the law department's report, removing certain unnecessary language. Number 3 addresses a law department concern, adding language that's required in order to be able to give the towing board sufficient legal grounds to be able to set standards and qualifications for licensure. They are all in keeping with what the board does presently. Number 4 addresses concerns related to maximum charges. And again, Amendment 4, number 3 addresses a law department concern that says that the board itself can't set maximum charges, but that if we allow that to be ratified by the Board of Estimates, that would suffice legally. And number 2 in Amendment 4 addresses one particular common concern related to towing, and that is the drop fee. When somebody comes to their car and it has been hooked up to a tow truck but has not been towed away, the tower has the obligation to release it for a fee. And this sets a cap on what that fee can be. In effect, under the anticipated rate of $280 for a towing fee, this would cap it at no more than $70 as 25% of that $280 fee, but would allow that the board and the Board of Estimates could set it even lower if they wanted to. For reference, Montgomery County caps this at $25. Amendment 5 addresses various basic language changes for legal purposes, again, as addressed in the law department's report. Number 6 further addresses concerns that are common related to incomplete tows, and again, again follows the suit of what is already in place in Montgomery County, where that if a vehicle has not substantially been lifted onto a tow truck here by more than 6 inches, then the tow truck driver's got to release the vehicle without a fee. But that if they've lifted it up more than 6 inches, then they can charge the release fee for the incomplete tow, which I discussed a moment ago. Again, further following the suit of Montgomery County, whereas trespass towing is a cash-only business at present, and that we simply require that a towing company have an ATM on premise. This would further require that they actually accept credit card payment, as Montgomery County does, requiring that they accept 2 major credit cards as a form of payment. The 7th amendment is one that at the request of the council president's office, I'm going to ask not to have moved today, but it addresses the concern of patrol towing. Again, it would follow suit with Montgomery County. Montgomery County limits the practice of patrol towing to the hours of 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. This would be, this amendment would allow that in a slightly more permissive way between the hours of 12 a.m. and 8 a.m. And this would be the most significant way to mitigate the concerns of the reports that we receive about predatory towing and what you hear about and read about. If you Google predatory towing, it is exactly what we understand to be patrol towing. It is the universally understood explanation of predatory towing. Amendment, I'm sorry if the committee members are following along. I have really done so much on this, and I am uncertain in this moment whether the last thing that I sent you all was a package of 7 amendments or 8 amendments. I have a piece of paper in front of me with 8 amendments, the 8th of which is to address the implementation date for the use of certain technology. At the request of BCIT, the fire department, and the police department, they asked for an extended period in order to get some technology in place. And so this 8th amendment would give them 1 year on that. And the 9th amendment addresses 2 very simple typos that Ashley caught in her review of the bill. Is that the package of amendments that everybody has?
That's what I have, Mr. Councilman.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Are you done, Councilman Dorsey?
Yes, if I could just make my request clear at this point. Having read through all of that and having made certain requests of DLR that I do not yet have drafted, I would like to ask if for the committee to consider moving amendments 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9, and not amendments 1 and 7, leaving these to be addressed along with a couple of others at a final hearing that I believe will get scheduled today.
Okay, so now we will we'll go into the agency reports. I will start with finance.
Yeah, excuse me. Good afternoon, Chairman Schleif, members of the committee. I'm Henry Raymond, Director of Finance. What I would like to do is confirm the amendment which removes the Department of Finance from responsibility of providing administrative support and staffing to the board. And also I'm seeking clarification that the amendment also excludes the Finance Department from providing enforcement support. That was presently the Finance Department does not have code enforcement officers or special enforcement officers to enforce citations. So I'm seeking clarification that these amendments also exclude the Finance Department from the enforcement action, which the Finance Department has never had.
Mr. Chair.
Do we want to allow the law department just to respond? Are they the ones who work through it with you?
No, DLR is working on it. May I just confirm for Director Raymond that yes, I understand your concerns clearly, and it is exactly what I have requested DLR to address.
Okay, I thank you very much, Councilman Dorsey, for the clarification. And that'll conclude my remarks. Thank you.
And so I will then move next over to DOT to address that, I assume, because they're likely be the agency who that responsibility would have to go to. So Mr. Davis, would you like to testify?
Sure. Do you guys see me? Because I'm having some issue like with my
I
WebEx.
can hear you.
We see you clearly.
Okay, great. So I talked to Director Sharkey about this a little bit yesterday, and it sounded like he was preliminarily open to DOT taking some more responsibility associated with this bill and this revised towing board. I think from the position of DOT, we would likely need to talk with finance about what type of what this would cost and whether or not the agency would be compensated for taking on this additional responsibility. So it's definitely a fluid conversation.
Help me fix spaghetti later.
And I
Help me fix spaghetti later.
Hello? Sorry.
Go ahead. I muted that person.
Okay. So it's a fluid conversation. I think we need to, as an agency, review the amendments. I don't believe I've gotten them yet, so I definitely want to take some time to have some internal meetings to review, and we'll have a more concrete position at our next work session. But I think right now the message is that DOT is willing to work with the committee to try and make this work.
Thank you. And Mr. Raymond, if you're still with us, did you guys have a ballpark what you expected it to cost that you can share with the committee and Mr. Davis?
No, Chairman Schleifer, we do not have cost estimates, but we're agreeable to working with the Department of Transportation to properly implement the legislation
Okay, so if we can get
in
that to
terms of the resources.
Thank you. So if DOT and finance can get that to the committee in the next week or so that we can have that far in advance of the next hearing, that would be appreciated. The next I will go to, I see members of the mayor's office here. Mr. Stegman or Ms. Thimilis, do you guys have anything to add?
No, I have nothing to add to the comments that have already been offered by Finance and DOT. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman.
No problem. All right, next to law. Ms. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I stand by my earlier report, which I went through last hearing. I'm sure no one wants to hear that again. The Councilman Dorsey's amendment, draft 4, is what I reviewed most recently, and those address the law department's concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
On to BPD. Mr. Davis. You got to unmute yourself.
Yep, I was looking for my unmute button. Thank you, everyone, very much. So in looking at the legislation, we believe that we need to determine and I think it's already been touched on, the overall funding based on a thorough analysis of available technologies. This is not a turnkey solution, out of the box kind of solution. It is an end-to-end solution that may come from multiple vendors just to meet the requirements of the legislation. And from my experience, developing, deploying, and supporting, a technical solution to meet the requirements of this legislation will be costly and will require more staff to manage and employ the technology associated with the service. And for everyone to understand, technology is not really the solution for such a complex issue.
And so, Mr. Davis, can you walk us through, in layman terms, for everybody on the hearing, what specific pieces of legislation you're referencing and what technology would be necessary to handle the tracking of those requirements?
Yeah, I don't have a reference to any specific, when I look at the legislation as a whole and I sort of summarize what's being asked, the first thing I think of is, well, what kind of technology solution would be required? So, technology that sits within a vehicle, the receiving of the signals or information at some location where a person must be able to manage and deal with the information that's being provided in terms of, activities that's occurring. Individuals who have that. I'm sorry, someone's going to say something?
Yeah, this is Michelle. This is Michelle Wurzberger, Director of Government Affairs for the Baltimore Police Department. So to the chairman's question, he's talking about section 22-30. And so I know that the Councilman Dorsey has drafted an amendment to help provide us with time to fully implement the solution, the technological solution that will allow us and the towers to comply with that particular section. We just think that will help, absolutely. We just think on the front end, we need to start gathering all of our requirements so that when this bill passes, we are already on the road to identifying what solution is going to be incorporated not only by VPD, but as and hopefully I get this terminology correct, Woody, but as an enterprise solution for the entire city. And so that is what Woody is kind of referring to, just making sure that we are all functioning together to make sure that we are identifying what our needs are, what the true costs are, and exactly and developing the roadmap for how that's going to be implemented in a timely manner.
Okay, so just to get more specific, so my question, and I appreciate that, Michelle, was a little bit more specific on what the needs actually were. So just from my understanding of reading the bill, each tower would be responsible to have this technology. This technology would also be managed by BPD. It would track all the tow trucks, and then when they call somebody to a tow, it would be able to identify who the closest one is. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So basically, the requirement of this bill is essentially requiring us to have an Uber-like technology that is developed or purchased by the city, as well as each towing company that's licensed would have to purchase that technology in order to work with the same platform. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's not a cheap technology. So if the bill sponsor can talk to just what problem that technology is solving for a minute for folks, that would be great.
Mr. Chair, I believe that I went over this in the previous hearing, and I've worked extensively on this already to address this as succinctly as possible. We have a system right now that awards towing to companies on the basis of a radius around their place of business's office. That is archaic, and that in 2020 we have technological solutions that are already in use by the city of Baltimore that can deploy for the deployment of needed services on the basis of the real-time location of the nearest possible service provider.
And so what agencies, I'm not familiar with that, what agencies have that technology that we could use?
This is how fire trucks are deployed in Baltimore City. So our dispatch office is already using this technology necessary in order to make this possible.
And making every one of these tow trucks that operate within the city, even ones that are from outside.
It's limited to ones that would be doing work contractually for the city of Baltimore. You have to enter into a contract with the city of Baltimore to fall under this requirement.
Right, I'm aware of that, but aren't they required to respond within a certain period of time anyways to a scene?
Yes.
So
Are you also asking me if that's what always happens? Because that's a different answer.
well, I mean, apparently not. I guess the question here that I'm trying to just get some clarity on is if BPD is saying how costly it would be and how time consuming it would be to implement. I'm just wondering if the juice is worth the squeeze. That if
We already have the technology and it's already being used by the city of Baltimore. So the learning curve should not be significant because we're already using it and we already have a contract with a vendor that can provide equipment additionally to make this more possible on a more robust scale. And if the city of Baltimore needs to move to a different system for doing what it's already doing, then that's something that the city of Baltimore needs to do anyway.
yeah, I mean, we're doing that for our equipment. For us to start doing that for private equipment is a little different. So, just for clarity, also, does that mean that the tow companies right now are currently required to work 24/7? They still be required to do that?
There's nothing in this law that addresses that. There's nothing in the current law that addresses that. That is something, that is a matter that is decided in the contract between the towing company who provide and who provides the service to the city of Baltimore and the city of Baltimore to have them provide that service. A key point of the structure of this bill is to take away the conflation of certain determinations as to whether or not they should be determined in law or in contract. The whole purpose of setting a requirement that there be a general towing license for people, for companies doing business towing in Baltimore City is that we set a basic floor of a standard for safety and accountability, and that when certain of those licensees wish to do business with the city of Baltimore, that additional requirements beyond the terms of that license be determined in the contract.
I got you. So is your intention, just to be clear for the committee, is your intention that the cost end up being bared by the city, or will the towers who want to do business with the city have to cover the technology costs?
That's a determination, I believe, to be made by the Board of Estimates.
As to who bears?
No, yes, that's correct. Because they are the ultimate approvers of contracts.
Right. So, okay. So I would just say that perhaps maybe that item would be, if you can get back to us on what you think it would cost, or maybe speak to the fire department, see if their technology would work for this as well. What those costs would be, if you can get back to us on that, so that we have those numbers. And perhaps if it is going to be too time consuming and too costly, perhaps that also be something that get worked out contractually, that if there is an issue that trucks are not arriving quick enough, what the solution to that may be can also be worked out contractually, rather than in the legislation forcing our hand to more technology that may or may not get reimbursed. Michelle, do you have something to add?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So we, Woody and I will work with BCIT, who would be essentially the lead in implementing this technology across the city as needed, so that we can have some idea, some way, something to report out at the next hearing, if that's okay.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do any members of the committee have any questions before we move on to public testimony?
Mr. Chair, Danielle McCray, do you have a question?
Go ahead, Councilwoman McCray.
Okay. So just to be respectful of time, first, Councilman Dorsey, I want to thank you for answering many of my questions prior to the hearing. From what I understand about towing at this point, my question is going to be, I think this fits under consensual towing. as far as motor clubs, and this is regarding the license portion, as far as motor clubs, say if there's an issue, say I'm getting a tow from my home and it's going to be going to a location within Baltimore City. So I live in the city, the location, the destination is going to be within the city. Does that person, say if for any reason the motor club has to have, say, go outside of their network to get a tow company outside of Baltimore City, does that, and say it's in Baltimore County, that would be the nearest county to my house. So say they have to go to Baltimore County. Is a Baltimore County driver, do they need to be licensed? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
The straightforward answer is that in order to do business towing in Baltimore City from points originating in Baltimore City, you have to have a license. And I believe the effect of this is that companies like motor clubs who essentially subcontract out to private towing companies to tow vehicles will have to have among the list of their vendors people who are licensed to do business in Baltimore City. And I think that that will result in people getting a license to do business in Baltimore City, or direct them to people who are already licensed to do business in Baltimore City.
Councilman Dorsey, thank you so much for your answer. I do want to share just one general concern before we move on. One thing that I know, and to be fully transparent, the motor company that I use is AAA. So one time we had a blizzard and there was a delay getting to me. And I know that they had to get someone outside of Baltimore City to service my vehicle and take it to a destination within Baltimore City. My concern is, what does that do for delays? And that's it. It's not a question. I'm just expressing my concern.
Noted and appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman McCray. Do any other members of the committee have any questions before we get to public testimony? No, any other members of the council have any questions before we get to public testimony? Nope. Okay, so what I will do is I will move to public testimony. I'm going to go one by one down the attendee list as I have it here in front of me. I believe it's in the order of which you signed on. When you hear the click, that is your opportunity to speak. If you'd like to give some public testimony, we're open to it. If you have nothing that you'd like to add, just let us know. We'll move on to the next person. So the first person I have here is Ms. Sherry Sims. Public testimony?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I'm gonna pass it on to the next person.
Okay.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. The next one is Joel de Blasio.
That's Charm TV, Mr. Chair.
Gotcha. I guess they don't have anything to say on the towing bill. Next one, Lisa Jones, do you have anything to add to this towing bill?
Sure. I have two. One is related to the fee. Again, I'm Lisa Harris Jones, and I'm here on behalf of Quick Response and with response to amendment number 7 of Councilman Dorsey. I guess I'm here also on behalf of Harris Jones Real Estate because I own 2 properties here in the city. With respect to the fee, I want to thank Councilman Yusey, the chair, for his motion to remove the 180 from the current bill. But I will want to point out my understanding of the law. Councilman Dorsey, you are accurate with respect to the local jurisdiction only being able to charge twice the amount of what's present in state law, is my understanding. You cannot go higher But the problem here is that the city, while the city charges $140 for their tows, they are also at the time of tow without any delay as far as days are concerned. Right off the bat, the city can charge $140 for the tow, plus they can charge at the time of picking the car up an administrative fee of $40 and a storage charge at $50, which is an additional $90, where a trespass tower, as I represent, and other towers have to wait by regulation 3 days to charge the administration fee, and can only charge $15 each day. So there is a concern that a city tow is going to cost more, and the city, and I would argue that the city likely should be able to charge, not likely, should have the ability for administrative costs and storage costs for that tow right off the bat. But the private tow company towing is not allowed to do that unless the car is on their lot for 3 days, which doesn't make any sense. It's not fair. So I'd like to be able to look at that. I can't hear you yet. So
You're muted, Mr. Chair.
Hey, yeah, no, I'm here. And so I just want to just check with the law department. Is that your interpretation also, Ms. Brown?
There's state law on towing from parking lots. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I can.
Okay. And the state law does cap for towing from parking lots actually twice the amount that the local jurisdiction charges for, I think, an impound tow. So it's not twice what's in state law, it's twice what we charge for an
No, I understand that. I misspoke, but yes, I agree with you there. I am looking at the city's website, and the city's website clearly says that they have the ability, at the time that the car arrives at their lot, an initial storage charge of $50 and an administration fee of $40, of which the trespass tower who is towing to their own yard is not allowed to charge any form of an administration fee unless, and this is under the city regs, unless the car has been with them for 3 days, and they can only get $15 each day.
And you're referring to, okay, I mean, there's
So why does the city have the ability to charge more than the trespass tower or any other tower when they're towing to their yard for administrative fees as well as storage fees?
Well, I mean, there's different kinds of tows, and the state law only applies to certain kinds of tows. So I'm not really sure. I can look into what you're asking, but I'm not really sure I'm understanding.
Yeah, I'm not referring to the tow. My concern is this: we have already there's already been an agreement that was made in December of 2019 for the towers to go to cut their rate 24%. And I think Councilman Yitzi appreciated that when he listened to them and their concerns and listened to the costs related to towing. It's more than one can see. I mean, there's administrative costs or storage costs or things like that. So we appreciate that you retracted the 180. Here's my concern. The city can charge on top of the 140 for the tow. They are allowed from the second that car comes in, the ability to charge an administrative fee of $40 and a storage charge fee of $50. But they prohibit the tower under regulation for charging an administrative fee until after that car has been there for 3 days, and they only charge $15 each day. Why can the city charge an administrative fee right off the bat of $40 and a storage charge of $50 when the tower can't do that?
Right, I understand your question. That's not something that we've specifically looked at in our review of this legislation, but perhaps we could discuss it in the continuation of the hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
My next concern is the sponsor's amendment number 7 that he shared that will not be voted on today. So I have a couple questions. The first is, I'm assuming that because he has not said that he is retracting that amendment and it's not going to be something that's going to be reviewed, that it's still up for discussion. It could possibly be voted on during the next hearing. If that's accurate, I'd like to voice some concerns with that amendment. So if that's the case, that you got that amendment could be up for a vote at the next hearing, is that accurate?
That is correct.
Okay, so my concern is that it's pretty to allow to say that in order for a car to be towed from a fire lane, a handicap lane, a designated parking space that a private owner has designated, whether it be for handicap, for I don't know, it could be for an employee's parking space, whatever that may be, a loading lane, to say that they cannot hire a tow truck company to patrol their area, not to spot and sit and watch, but to patrol the area so that they do not have to hire someone else on their own to take on that responsibility, to watch for cars sitting in those spaces and then have to call it in and get the tow truck out to do it, is problematic for a number of reasons. One, the fact that the owner has to now have someone do their own policing of these spots. Two, you're allowing citizens the ability to sit in designated lanes that by law, fire, handicap, or whatever it may be, they should not be in, and knowing that the likelihood of someone being able to spot them doing it, because say that that owner doesn't have someone paid or designated to watch, you're opening up a can of worms for that ability to happen. And three, in the beginning, I shared that I, as a property owner here in the city with a business in the city, and I have a parking lot, I have a hired tow truck company to patrol my parking spaces, because my experience before then is when I had to confront people for parking in my spaces, I was threatened with physical harm. I had my car keyed. When I finally did get a car towed, I was confronted several times by neighbors who like to park in my spots, and I have to get them to move them. I don't want the retaliatory problems that comes with calling a tow company to get my car removed, and then they know exactly who called because I own the property. So that's one of the reasons why we have the ability for tow truck companies to patrol. So we have great concern with that amendment number 7. So, I mean, I can stop there if there's any response to that. Yitzi, you're on mute again.
Thank you for that. If any members of the committee or members of the council want to jump in at any time and ask questions of anybody testifying, please just unmute yourself and start asking your question. Okay, thank you. The next one up is Tommy. Tommy, do you have something to add?
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
How you doing? Thank you, committee, for allowing us to speak. Really appreciate that. My name is Joe Walker. Everyone is in the room, the towers that I represent.
We can barely hear you.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah, a little bit. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Again, thank you very much for letting us speak. Again, we have approximately 20 of the towers here that wanted to also speak about the legislation. I also own the Auto Barn Towing Company. I have great concerns over certain sections of the bill. I do agree with certain parts of it. Controlling is always good. But again, some of my biggest concerns is, again, the not being able to, and thank you very much for pulling the cap. I think that also gives a little bit of relief. But my great concerns of patrolling, again, property owners hire us to patrol to keep certain people from parking. It could be anything from people doing drugs, God knows, people coming in, alcohol, what have you. If somebody's trying to leave their spot or trying to park in their spot, being restricted or having a problem getting it to, I think is always a safety issue that needs to be looked at. So I would really be curious to know and would love to sit down and talk about different options with it. Because just to say that we can't do it at a certain time or to have it towed from a fire lane or to be in a handicap zone or for anybody to try to leave, it shouldn't be a time frame of when we could do a service and not. As far as the, again, if you go through the law, you can see certain things like the equipment as far as doing the police towing. I would like to know who would be responsible on the tower side of paying for this updated equipment. Again, my biggest concern is in today's age, money is always a factor. So again, if we get this updated, who's going to be paying for it? Then I have another concern is, so we're talking about doing it like an Uber. So if we have a driver that turns on his app, then he don't decide to turn on his app, or he accepts the call. In these rules and regulations, it says that the owner of the company will be held responsible. So we have a driver, because it's going to go to an app to a driver, it's not going to the company. You're taking the company outside of being able to control it. So the driver takes the call, he decides to go do something else. Again, we know nothing about the call. We have no control over the call. And on the other side of that, you dispatch the tow to a driver to do a wreck. It's overturned. Maybe he don't have the knowledge to do it. Some drivers in my company are the recovery guys. Some guys are the towing guys. So I absolutely disagree with that. Any parts of dispatching an inexperienced driver to do what is required. You're not going through the company. Absolutely, there's no control. And according to Councilman Ryan, this bill is based around holding people accountable and holding in control. We would have no control. It did not happen. Again, we'll go back to the licensing. So I'm going to come and tow Councilman Schaefer your car at night. You want me to tow it, but I ain't got a license. Who am I going to contact in the middle of the night to get a license? Because it's an emergency. Your wife is downtown. You need to tow. Your car don't start. Your wheel fell off. You need me to tow it. Where are we going to find a licensed tow at 12, 1 o'clock midnight? But maybe you don't want to use them. You want to use the Auto Barn, or you want to use Greenwood's Towing. Again, where are we getting that license in the middle of the night to tow anybody? We're going to just license the entire world? Wow, that would be amazing. Again, I don't think this legislation touches on everything. I don't think it's definitive enough. And again, I have so many other questions. The 28% of a release fee. What is a release fee? Where did we pick the 28%? it is. It's 25, I'm sorry. I misspoke, it's 25%. It's always been half of an impound fee or a drop fee is what it was called. In here, it specifies 6 inches off the ground. Who is going to get out with a tape measure and measure the 6 inches? We are required by now in all of our companies, we take pictures prior to the tow, we take pictures all 4 corners. It's always been sufficient. I think this bill is trying to rewrite the wheel. There are rules and regulations that are on the books right now that nobody enforces. Nobody. If you just took the rules and regulations right now, obviously they do need to be updated. I agree with that 100%. But the rules right now do not get enforced. They talk about predatory towing. Again, anybody can be brought in front of the tow board for impound, overcharging, crossing the line. There's always a grace period. Anything that can be brought in front of the tow board, we already have that. When it comes to predatory towing, inflated pricing, again, if you would monitor and have the police department monitor what tow trucks come onto the scene, then you would eliminate that because you already have medallion towing. Baltimore County already has it to where if you're not a licensed Baltimore County tower, you can't come on the scene. It's the way it is. The pricing structure is already set. The pricing of predatory towing is from towers show up on a scene, say, I'm here, I'm going to take care of you. That should not be allowed. Then you would have a police tower show on scene. The price is already set. It goes back to the facility. But the police department allows anybody on the scene. These rules and regulations are already on the books. Do I agree with Councilman Ryan bringing the tow boards together to make one? Yes. But there's so much different types of towing that needs to be discussed. Heavy duty is not discussed in this bill at all. I can't tow a heavy duty. I do heavy duty towing. I tow for the city. I tow for the police. I tow for the central garage, the fire truck. In this rule, you want me to tow a fire truck for $280? I'm sorry, that cannot happen. It takes twice as much time. Cannot do it. And nowhere in this rules and regulations is that discussed. I think at this point, I would honestly request that the committee table this to a later date, allow us to do a work study, allow the industry to get involved, and talk with you and let you know there's so many different types of towing. There's repossession, impound, private towing, private recovery, heavy duty. There's medium duty. There is such a wide range that isn't even touched in here, but we're talking about capping. I think it needs a lot more discussion, and I would encourage a workstation and have some of the industry reps come in. And again, thank you very much for letting us speak. We have over 19 other towers here that have the same concerns, and I respectfully request that you let them talk.
Mr. Chair, you're on mute, Mr. Chair.
Mr. President, do you have anything you'd like to add before we continue?
I would just like to note that I think that you've noted already that you're going to have another work session on this bill.
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay, I was just noting that because I know that we should move as expeditiously as possible into discussion of the most pressing issue in the city, and that's violent crime, and we're now 16 minutes behind time.
I understand. Yeah, we're just gonna go through those who called in and waited to be able to testify, give them a quick opportunity to testify. Just in response to the last testimony from the towing board rep, I would just say that, if you do have those items that you're making suggestions on behalf of the towing companies, I would just suggest that you send that over to the committee as soon as possible and prior to the next hearing. So I will then, let me just continue to move through those who've been waiting. The next one I have here is All Tow Companies 11. I assume that's the same group. If anybody would like to say anything, speak. From the tow companies, anybody else want to?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
This-
Give us your name and company.
Hello, this is Charles Parrish. I'm the legislative chairman for Towing Recovery Professionals.
Let me just pause you.
I'm just going to keep it real short.
Yeah.
I agree with everything that the
Charles, if you can just hold on for 1 second. If you have other people in the room who also have the same hearing on, I would ask that they turn it off so that we don't have that large echo. Go ahead, Charles.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Charles Parrish, legislative chairman for the Towing Recovery Professionals of Maryland. I had sent an email on August the 10th to all committee members, so I'm not going to go over that. Hopefully you've all received it. Pretty much support everything that Tommy was saying. At this time, especially with the amendments 4, 6, and I know 7 is going to be discussed later. At this time, we cannot support the bill for various reasons that have already been stated. And we are respectfully asking as well that a work study be done with the industry individuals involved in the committee so that direct questions don't have to wait to be addressed as it was in the last hearing. And the fees that are being discussed from 1988, when Attorney General Joseph Curran, to when Councilman Bobby Curran in 2012, the fee based upon the municipality under the state law, including the state task force of 2008 to 2011. The understanding is in Baltimore City, the cheapest I can get my car out before a ticket is charged is $230, $240 if you're on the east side. So the fee was based on that. The young lady earlier was correct. It's not based on the 140. Throughout the state, TRPM has helped with legislation and for the state, and we would love the opportunity to meet with the committee, as I stated in my email. And one other thing I may say, so I can allow others to talk, as a proud citizen for 59 years of Baltimore City, I was never asked to live by Montgomery County rules. Baltimore City has always stood alone and stood proud. I was a firefighter, and I've been a tower for the last 31 years. And this board, the towing board of Baltimore City, along with Councilman Curran back in the day and the founders of it, is something that we have promoted throughout the state. And to be honest with you, I don't want to represent another county, and we've told them that we do it right as it is. Our problem, as Tommy had stated, is the enforcement. We have the rules and regulations in place, but we're not enforcing it. We continue to give companies license to operate illegally. So I would ask again that a work study be done and that those in this industry can actively participate during that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're moving along. The next one is Sean Malone. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I heard the council president's request that we move this along, so I'm going to defer. I represent Maryland Multi-Housing Association, and MHA has serious concerns about the designated areas that they've marked, that they remain clear for the purposes that they're set. We believe amendment number 7 inhibits that, but we'll continue to work with the sponsor of the bill. We appreciate the hard work of the sponsor and yourself, and with that, we'll wrap it up.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, Ellen Valentino.
I have nothing to add. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Okay. Call in number user 4. Do you hear me? You have anything to add? Nope. Okay. Do you have anything to add? No. I'm going through all the call-in numbers, and so if you hear the beeping, that means it's your turn to testify. So if you hear the beep, just start speaking. Hello, do you have anything to add? Call-in number 11, do you have anything you'd like to say? Caller number 12. Nope. Next up, Kevin Herbert. You have anything to add? Kevin Herbert. Nope. Donald Blood is up next. Donald, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I work with Frankfurt Towing and have been working around the towing industry for almost 50 years. And one of the things that kind of stands out is you're looking to pretty much allow anybody to do police towing. You're going to dilute the revenue stream, and it's going to be difficult for the professional towers to have the resources to respond to when you really need them. And I would suggest that you spend some time with the towers and see what the life of a tower is and what they go through. It is such a wide range of scenarios. And if you dilute it so much, you're going to have a hard time getting tows at night. You're going to have a hard time during snowstorms. You're going to have a hard time when you have a major incident, because the guys that are responding now won't have the revenue stream to support, say, a third shift, which is non-profitable, to service the city.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So thank you. I just like to, because I've heard the same thing a couple of times now, just like to address a couple of basic misconceptions here that have been asserted. One, this bill absolutely would not, it's completely inaccurate to assert that this bill would just allow anybody to police tow. This bill does not allow anybody to police tow, period. This bill only requires that everybody get a basic license. And in order to be able to police tow, a person would still have to be able to meet conditions set by the police department and the Department of Transportation in a contract that would have to go through the Board of Estimates in order to allow that person or company to be a police tower. There is nothing in this bill that permits anybody to be a police tower. The second thing is that the issue of the $280 cap that's set in the state, that's set by the formula set forth in the state law, was brought up in relation to other things like overturned vehicles and repossession towing and other things that absolutely does not apply to. That state formula applies exclusively to trespass towing from parking lots. So I just wanted to, and there's nothing in this law that would prohibit, for example, the contracts for the police department from having provisions in them that would, for example, create late night hour differential pay or something like that, that would incentivize towers to want to be available to tow at those off-peak hours in order to ensure that the city has an adequate a stable of towers to be able to call on during those hours. And so there's nothing here that keeps the city of Baltimore from using ingenuity in the same way as already exists in the private market, as you mentioned, Mr. Chair, through services like Uber and Lyft that do rely on off hours and other forms of differential payment to ensure that people who use the service are able to get service when they need service. I just wanted to address those couple of things because I heard them come up. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. The next one we will go to is call-in user 14, and we're going to try to work through this as quickly as possible because we are 26 minutes late on the next hearing. Call-in number 14, do you have something to add?
Hello?
Yes.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Do you have something you'd like to add?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
This is Robert Cullen, Mr. Chairman, former councilman for 21 years. And the gentleman, I'm here with a host of maybe 18 or 20 towers that would probably like to speak, but Mr. Showalter and Mr. Parrish, we carried on their concerns, and we hope that the work session will happen. Just to let you know, Mr. Chairman, the standing that I would have out of 21 years on the council, I was on the tow board for about 18 of those 21 years because I got involved in a trespass tow on a lot up in Hamilton, on Hamilton Avenue, doing predatory towing. And from that on, I did 14 different legislations concerning towing. And the other two that I didn't put in, I was chair of the committee that heard them. Mr. Crummick next to you might be able to verify that. But I'm asking, Mr. Chairman, I know you're running late for the other hearing, and I hope you would just allow me about a minute here. I applaud the sponsor for doing the legislation that, not all of it, but part of it says about the tow board should take into consideration police tows, the impound tows, the scaffold tows, so that the citizens can have some recourse if they thought that they were grievously towed. We only do that now for trespass tows. So I agree with that. I just want to address real quickly the fees that the city charges for tows. Back when I tried to do a cap 18 years ago, 15 years ago, the 140 is correct, but the local jurisdiction fees are 50 for the first 3 days of storage, whether you're there for 3 minutes or 3 days, they charge you 50. And at $15 if you're towed from Fallsway to Pulaski, it's $15 a day after that. That was also legislation I had put in. And then you add the administration fee. At that time was $25, which came to $230. So the actual trespass towers could charge $460. And I thought that was real outrageous. So maybe we can work with the town to bring that number down. But that is actually, at the time, maybe changed, but they could charge it to $460, which was double the rent. I'm not going to belabor other issues at this. I'm going to address them in the work session because there's a lot of issues I have because I followed towing for a lot of years on the council. And Mr. Chairman, I applaud you having this hearing. I applaud the sponsor for putting it in, but it needs to be some work done. And I hope you would allow, as a chairman, when I was chairman of committee, we had a work session, we would allow the public to interject as the hearing goes on because of a COVID-19. We can't be with you right now, Mr. Chairman. So that makes it inhibiting a lot of the work session to do. But I hope you will allow the public to interject as the work session evolves, issue by issue. It's going to take maybe more than one work session to get this right. And Mr. Chairman and the sponsor, I know we want to get it right. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilman. And yes, that's why we're making sure everyone has the opportunity to testify. This is the second hearing on this topic, and we will be having a third one in 2 weeks from now. So what I would suggest and recommend to anybody who does want to speak on any of these items to please email the committee that as quickly as possible. And I do want to also thank the sponsor of this bill for sending out the amendments prior to the hearing to give folks the opportunity to read through it. Okay, let me just move forward so we can get through this. Caller number 17, do you have something to add? Nope. Okay. Next up is Norman McCarthy.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. I appreciate your time, and I'll be real quick. We're trying to compare what Sally said, comparing ourselves with Montgomery County. I don't think they've had any deaths where drivers were killed in the line of trying to do any impounds, repossessions, those kind of things in Baltimore. Baltimore's one of the fifth leading as far as homicides and everything else. It's a dangerous place to be. And what you have to understand is people, store owners, property owners, they have a right to protect their property. Some of that protection, and when you just had the president of the council come in and say you had another meeting, understand some of those vehicles that are on some of these properties are stash cars. They stash drugs, guns, and other things. So people want to get that off their property. And when you say patrolling between 12 and 8, that doesn't do my clients any good. I got a doctor that has one down on Hartford Road, has a property. He has 12 spaces. The space he has a physical therapy. He has the people from the bar parking there. He has people from the hairdressers parking there. And then, of course, he has his clients coming there. So what happens when he comes out and tells them to move? They tell him, of course, he's of Indian descent, so he has to deal with it. He got beat up twice. So, of course, he gives us a list of cars that should be there and cars that shouldn't. So as a taxpayer, as a business owner, you don't want him to leave and move to Perry Hall, that kind of thing. Let him stay in Baltimore, but let him have a right to have his property patrolled without getting himself beat up. As far as the cost of trucks, that's something I don't know who's been in business. I grew up on the street, and my kind of thing is if you want something in life, you got to earn it. These trucks that I'm buying, in 2014, I bought a truck. It was $46,000. I bought one in 2018. It cost me $86,000. Same truck. It's just it's increased. My record cost me $400,000. So if I'm going to do a tow and I got a $400,000 rig and Tommy's got them for whatever, but it's just there's a lot to be considered. The other thing, as far as the 25%, the drop fee, when you look at motor clubs, and this is one thing you need to look into. Geico has it that if you have Geico for your roadside service, if you call them, they have 48 hours to come to your tow. What is that going to do you when you're stuck in Baltimore? You want somebody waiting out 48 hours? If they're not stuck in traffic, they're off to the side of the road, they have 48 hours to respond to your call. Same thing with a Giro. So they might want to check in that roadside. And then when you're dealing with that, they do a lower rate. So, of course, it's less quality of a person trying to do the tow.
I understand.
It's same as in license. Tommy has the big trucks. To get an A license, real quick, it's $3,000 to $7,000 minimum. If you want to get a Class A license, it costs you money. So now you're going to go spend the money, get this guy certified for what? To do an 85-hour tow. So anyway, I'll let you go and I'll put it in the next one, but I appreciate your time and let me speak. And then one other thing, again, please stop comparing us to Montgomery County. We're not Montgomery County. Baltimore City's nothing like Montgomery County.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next in caller, number 19.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, would you like to add to the conversation? Caller number 19, do you have any testimony?
Hello?
Yeah, we
Yes,
can hear
I
you.
do.
Okay, go ahead.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon, and I will be brief because I know you have a very important hearing to come up. This is Paula from Frankfurt Towing, Ted's Towing, and Mel's Towing. I would just like to hit on one point, that was just that the councilman had just said that this bill will not give everyone a police towing license. However, under your definitions of right-of-way towing company, a right-of-way towing company means that under number 2, it says, is certified under this subtitle to tow motor vehicles from the public right-of-way. So it is my impression that with this license for this bill, I can show up on that police vehicle that is, or police tow that's on the public right-of-way. Whether that's right or not, that's the way that this reads. I have several other points. I will put them in writing because I do know that there is a very important hearing coming up. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak. And I think we can work on this together with some tangible solutions to the problems you've heard today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We look forward to receiving those solutions. Caller number 20. Caller number 20. Okay. Caller number 22. Caller 22. Okay. Rebecca. Rebecca, do you have any testimony? Okay. Ashelle Henry, do you have any testimony? Guess not. Aaron, do you have any testimony?
No.
Call in caller 23. Caller 23. Caller 23, do you have Jesse Keller? Do you have
No
any-
comment.
Okay. Barry Seal, do you have any testimony? Jeanette Gomez, do you have any testimony? Do you have any testimony for this bill? Nope. Okay. I think these other ones are reporters, but you're welcome to testify if you'd like. Trey Ward?
No,
Trey,
thank you.
Okay. Phil, you got anything for us?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Melvin Robinson. Melvin, do you have anything to add? Oh, okay. Jamie Kramer. Where did that go? That one disappeared. Commissioner Friedman, do you have anything to add? Nope. Okay. Mr. Friedman, do you have anything to add? Guess not. Eugene, you're up next. Eugene, do you have anything to add?
No.
Here we go. Jamie Kramer, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay. Lashella Miller. Lashella, do you have any testimony? Miss Miller, do you have any testimony? Nope. Amy Guevara, do you have any testimony?
No.
Madeline Ross, do you have any testimony?
Paul had a heart attack. Nobody should ever be the.
Guess not. Dan Lamparello, do you have anything to add? Dan, you have any testimony for this bill?
No, I don't.
Okay. And we have Fox News on here. Do you have anything to add to this?
It's not entirely an altruistic.
I guess not. Okay. That concludes the public testimony. Thank you all for your patience as we work through an incredible amount of people who wanted to add testimony. For those who have more that they would like to add, I would ask that they email the committee with any thoughts that they have. I will now turn the floor back over to the bill sponsor if he would like to offer the amendments. If not, maybe I could suggest that we just move forward at the next hearing with some of those amendments, but I'll leave that up to you. Councilman Dorsey?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, as somebody who's not a member of the committee, I can't, but I would request, I would ask that a committee member move the amendments that I listed out before. That is all of the package of amendments 1 through 9, except for amendments 1 and 7.
Okay, in the interest of time, I will, we could do that. We'll do it all as a packet, if that's okay, with members of the committee. If somebody would like it voted on individually, you can speak up, but let's put it through as a packet. And then from there, we will have further discussion in 2 weeks from now. And so is there a member of the committee that would like to offer up those amendments on behalf of the bill sponsor, Councilman Dorsey? Do I have any members of the committee who'd like to offer up those amendments on behalf of Councilman Dorsey?
Mr. Chair, I'll move those amendments. This is Councilman Cohen.
Okay, thank you. And do we have a second on that? I'll second it.
I'll move it as a second.
Okay, Councilwoman Sneeze a second. Richard, can we get a roll call?
Five.
Richard, can you start the roll call over? You are muted.
Oh, sorry.
You're unmuted now. You can go ahead.
Well,
You're good. You're good. Just start with the roll.
okay, so we make it clear, we're moving amendments 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9.
Correct.
Okay. Very cool. Chair Schleifer,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burnett,
Let's see if he's still on here.
Do you want to move on and come back? Or?
Let's come back to him at the end. So let's keep going.
Okay. Mr. Cohen. He was just here on the motion. Well, Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen votes aye. Member McCray?
No.
Member McCray votes no. Mr. Pinkett?
Yes.
Mr. Pinkett votes aye. Member Sneed?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, you have 4 votes. The amendments can move. Do we want to Vice Chair?
Yeah, is Vice Chair Burnett on? Give him another chance. Councilman Burnett, are you there? I see he's on.
Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I was having issues getting unmuted. Yes, on the package.
Okay, Mr. Chair, there's 5 votes in the affirmative, 1 negative. The amendments are approved.
All right, thank you very much. This committee is in recess. We will reconvene in 2 weeks from now. Thank you all for your participation.
Mr. Chair, can you give me this date and time so I can send out the notice?
Yeah, I'll have to send you the exact one. I have to look at our what our schedule is, but I'll get you the exact time for us to post on the website. It'll be posted on the website
Okay.
by tomorrow.
Because we have to do another WebEx announcement.
I gotcha. All right, we can do it during the next hearing. Just give me some time to get our. I'll call you and get the date and time scheduled. We'll stay on this WebEx. We'll recess this this hearing, and we'll announce that time during the next one.